We are waiting for the Acton Agua Dulce Unified School District Board of Trustees meeting. Today is January 28th, and the meeting should be starting any moment now.
Okay, I believe we have everyone. Do we have everyone in, Larry?
I couldn't unmute myself, it said, but now I could. Okay, so please let everybody in.
I'm in.
Okay, I think, we have, the public is in, Ms. Jensen.
Okay, thank you. So welcome back, everyone. We're going to go ahead and start with our flag salute if Mr. Chadwick wants to lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance.
Please stand, right hand over your heart. Ready to begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Next, we're going to go ahead and have read our civility statement by Mr. Fox. Mr. Fox, if you could please read our civility statement.
Yes. Let's see. It's my turn. Okay. We will communicate clearly and concisely with respect for the time of others, listen objectively, carefully considering the opinion of others, understand the counterproductive effects of disruptive, demeaning, and intimidating behaviors, understand and respect district policies and procedures, maintain and respect the rich history of the district and the efforts of others who have served in the past.
Thank you very much. Mr. King, do we have any public comments tonight?
No, I do not believe so. I'm just confirming with Yolanda. I'll text her just to make sure, but, no, we do not. I'll let you know if there is any.
Okay. Then we're going to, do we have Melissa Tressell in? Thank you, Ms. Tressell. Can you hear her?
Good evening, everybody. Just a quick hello. Hope everybody's doing well, and I hope everybody is safe in this weather that we're getting now all of a sudden. Looking forward to hearing about the budget and the district's plans in regards to reopening. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have Brianna Texcani in the house? Sorry, Brianna.
Hi.
Yeah, there you are.
I'm here. It's Texoni, but say it however you want. I don't mind.
It's meant for me. One more time. I'm sorry.
Texoni. Just the way
Okay.
it sounds like.
All right.
TV.
Yes. I think I had a lot right the last time, so I apologize.
It's okay. Thank you. Like Melissa said, I'm very excited to see where our district is going. As far as reopening, I'm looking forward to hearing the budget and reporting that back to our CSEA members. Yesterday, I was able to meet with Larry King and Kim Shaw, and we had a great meeting. I feel like it went really well, and I'm really excited to see where our union and the school district are going to go, you know, when we get back into things. I do want to give a couple of shout outs, just something that I personally have seen in, you know, being at work every day and all that. I really want to just reiterate, I'm sure, what other people have said. Nurse Carrie has just done an unbelievable job with keeping us all informed, and she is like the ultimate go-to of knowledge for our district, and she has so many different things that she just constantly reads, and I just see her all the time, just, you know, working like crazy to protect all of us. So I just wanted to let everybody know how much I personally really appreciate Carrie Wright and what she's done for all of us employees and our students. One more shout out, if any of you have gone through the cafe line, our cafeteria workers, those ladies are out there literally running every day, whether it's warm out, when it's windy, when it's freezing cold rain. Those ladies work so hard to take care of our students and our kids in our community. And to listen to them just talk, they're getting so much joy out of what they're doing. So I just wanted to put a shout out to them, that we see you running every day, we see you working so hard, we see the heart that you're putting into your job. So I just wanted to thank them for that.
Thank you very much. And do we have Kemp Fairbanks, our student rep, in?
Yes, thank you. Hello, everyone. The first thing I'd like to say is Wetlark recently recognized many of their students for the Super Scholar Award. So that was fun that happened. Students are very excited that CIF and the district had a meeting, so we hope that will yield results positively so we can get back into sports. I wanted to thank Coach Sparks from the entirety of Vasquez High School for his pursuit on the gym project. He has our best intentions and he has our full support. Lastly, I heard some discussion last meeting about the Mustang logo on the gym floor, and I was curious, does this logo belong to another organization? And if it does that organization even want us to remove it? That was something I was curious about. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We're going to turn it over to Mr. King for a gold standard report.
Thank you. So let me start with a update in regards to COVID and where we're at with some of the questions and curiosity about reopening and those sorts of things. So the first thing is that the numbers at this time are still pretty high, and so there's at the high point there was 8,000 hospitalizations or 8,000 beds being used in LA County in ICU units were full to capacity. Currently, they're at about 6,500. So that's a trend that's going in the right direction. Of course, what's not going in a very good direction, and not so much to do with school business, but just my heart goes out to people, is that the death rate is not coming down. It's currently at about 150 per day, and so just you know, my heart just goes out to those families and folks that are being affected by that. The two criteria are still in place for school districts as far as reopening: the test positivity metric, which is those tiers that we went over before, the purple, red, orange, and yellow tiers. Currently, they're now talking about a deep purple tier, because at one point you had to get below 9% to be in the purple tier. But health professionals have said that now they can now use the number 25. I apologize. Let me back up for a minute. Raw numbers. So 9 cases out of 100,000 is what was needed to be in the. You wanted to get below that to be in the low part of the purple tier. But now they're calling it the deep purple tier because they've said 25 positive cases out of 100,000 is still an acceptable amount to allow students to be in school under certain circumstances, certain criteria. So I can go into a little bit more in that, more detail in just a moment. The other metric that's still in place is the test positivity metric, which is the percentage rate. And so I talked about that at the last board meeting. It was at about 15%. We really want to get that down to the 3% area. So the numbers are still high at this moment, but trending downwards, which is good. The governor's order has been lifted, so things like outdoor dining, outdoor workout facilities, retail stores with certain percentages, those sorts of things are now being allowed to reopen. During the past several weeks, schools have been under that order as well, and so employees in our district, especially if they shared office space, were allowed to work from home and alternate a home and work schedule. With the lifting of the order, all employees are now back at work, and so I just want to make that clear for the public. And sometimes the parking lot looks like it's empty over the past 3 weeks. I just wanted to explain that that's the reason why. And we did have an outbreak in the central office here, which is you can see that on the LA County Department of Public Health website that there was 5 cases, and so because of that we had a visit from a doctor, a physician from the LA County Department of Public Health, and due to all of that we took a very conservative approach with how we worked out a staggered work schedule here at the central office. The protocols for this spring and summer will likely still need to be in place. The safety and health protocols is what we gathered from this morning's call with Dr. Ferrer and Dr. Gilchek from the LA County Department of Public Health. There was questions about, now that the vaccine is coming out, would students be allowed to return to school in a normal format with without masks and with full classes, and that would not be the case. The main reason being is because the vaccine at this point has not been developed for children. And so because of that, all of the health protocols with mask wearing and hand washing and distancing would still remain in place, even as things are resuming potentially in spring and in summer. One of the things that we get, that we ask about when we're on these phone calls is, what about secondary students? We're very concerned about students in grades 7 through 12. Personally, I do hear from students and parents about anxiety and depression, and how students are being affected by this distance learning. It is a very serious concern, and because of that, we discuss it every week. One of the things that they keep pointing to is that younger children compared to older children, the likelihood of transmission in younger children compared to older children is far less likely. And so they have medical documentation to back that up. And so because of that, that's why they are less likely to allow the return of students in grades 7 through 12 in the purple tier. They really can't return to school until we go into that red tier. One thing that was clarified is that as we continue to develop our plans for the reopening, a teacher could work with 2 different cohorts of students. So there was some confusion about does a teacher have to just work with 1 cohort of students, or could they work with 2? It was in 2 different areas. It looked like there was a contradiction. We clarified that they could work with 2 different cohorts of students. The cohorts will be increased to 14 students, which is an increase from 12 students that was previously in the plan. I'm just seeing, in terms of where we're at with our reopening, currently we're looking at students in transitional kindergarten, special day class preschool, special day class grades kindergarten through 4th, will be returning to school on February 8th for in-person instruction per the memorandum of understanding that was agreed upon by the Teachers Association in the district. We also have a memorandum of understanding with the California School Employees Association. As Brianna Taxoni mentioned, I do appreciate the work that we've done with both associations towards that effort. Both of those were previously approved by our board. So that really concludes my comments for this time in regards to the reopening piece. We're going to continue to work with our associations as we look at the potential for other students to return throughout the remainder of 2nd semester. In terms of facilities, nothing new to report at this time. I appreciate Kemp Fairbanks bringing up the VHS gym beautification project in terms of the new work being done with banners and such. It's a great thing for high schools to be able to celebrate and to acknowledge their history, their culture, their athletic programs, their successes, their championships, and so on. So this is a very, very important project, and I fully support it. So some of the questions and things that were brought up from the last board meeting, I just want to talk a little bit about the comments that were brought up. So on February 11th, staff will be making a presentation regarding the specifics of the gym beautification project at the high school that Coach Sparks spoke about at our last board meeting. Some comments that I gleaned from the process to ensure fiscal accountability and oversight. So let me address each one of those things, and we'll go from there if there's a desire to have a future board discussion on it another meeting. So in terms of transportation, as a cost savings, because of the COVID virus and the closing down of so many programs, there's actually money that's been set aside at the high school for transportation. Additionally, last year I added an additional $10,000 to the high school budget per a discussion I had with the high school principal and his advocacy for uniforms, transportation, and athletic officials. I fully supported the principal's request for that, and so there should be sufficient funding, even in the event if we have to have athletes sit at 1 athlete per seat on a bus. I believe that would be able to cover those costs, given those budgetary additions and the set aside as a result of the school closure and halting on the programs in athletics. In terms of student eligibility, and this is something that I would suggest that staff come back to the board on, and I'm happy to bring it up during future agenda items, is that in prior years, the board has made academics a priority, and so we don't have a current board policy that allows for that flexibility to allow students who are in having some academic challenges to have an academic probation period. And Mr. Brockway, at my request, has provided some draft language for that. I think it could be very helpful if the board had an interest in that. Staff would be prepared to accommodate that. So I think during future agenda items, I'll bring that up and see if there's an interest from the board in having us address that. The third piece, as far as the fiscal accountability and the ASB process, I really want to commend the high school because I think they did a great process. And one of the things that you want to be sure you're doing when you have a 501c3 and with your ASB students, whether it's elementary school or middle school or high school, is follow all the guidelines set by the state ed code and FCMAT does tremendous training on that, which we've taken advantage of. And so you want to make sure that you're working with students so that they're setting the goals, they have ownership, they have buy-in, they're conducting their business. The teacher's really there to facilitate. And from everything I gathered, that's exactly what the principal and the athletic director have allowed to happen, and the senior class advisors. So I think Coach Sparks and Mr. Rockway have done a really nice job of this. So in essence, every year the seniors give a gift to the Vasquez High School. The seniors and the advisor discussed their ideas. They decided to donate a banner to the gym decor. They gathered different designs from different vendors. They took artwork submitted as well. They came up with 12 different designs and concepts. Students narrowed their choices and voted. The final vote chose the 2 designs for 2 banners, a horse eye and an old school logo with a modern flair is how it's been described by Coach Sparks to me. And that makes complete sense. I think the students did an outstanding job in trying to consider recognizing the past, while as Coach Sparks called it, a flair for the future or the modern. So I really appreciate all of the work that's been done on that. If there's other questions that the board has, again, if they desire a future discussion on the topic, we can look at that under future agenda items. The next thing on a totally different topic is the board workshop, study workshop scheduled for March 6th. So that workshop is it is open to the public. It is March 6th. That's a Saturday from 8:30 to 1:30 p.m. In the event that we're not able to do that in person, we'll postpone that to April. It's really tough to do this kind of work as a team over a Zoom platform. So in my discussion with Kelly Jensen, I think we both are in agreement that we really want to do this in person. At that meeting, Dennis Smith from Leadership Associates will be working with me on the facilitation of the meeting, and then we'll also have legal counsel, Eric Stevens, there to help us look at our charter policies and how we conduct charter business, and how to address the more recent Assembly Bills 1505 and 1507, and how those would apply to our district, our current policies, and our practices. The next piece I'd like to talk about is Antelope Valley School Board Association nomination. So in the past 3 years, trustees, what we've done is we've elected someone to the Los Angeles County Trustee Association, which is different than the Antelope Valley School Board Association. In my conversation with Nancy Smith, she confirmed that we've done that the correct way. We don't need to have this agendized as I've done in the past 3 years. Really, if there's a person that the board would like to delegate to attend the meetings, I believe Ms. Jensen has attended those in the past. If there's, I don't think it can be a sitting board president that can attend those. She is our Los Angeles County representative for the Trustee Association. So if there's a board member that would like to attend, I would open that up for consensus, Ms. Jensen, to see if there's an interest for that position.
Just for clarification, at these meetings, any board members can attend, but there is a rep that goes to a special meeting. So
correct.
this meeting this week, which I did attend, but then there's also one if someone would like to attend. Usually their meetings, if they're in person, they're in the Palmdale School District Superintendent's office.
Correct, that's accurate, yes.
If there's no objection, I would be able to do that.
I think it would be great. I was actually going to ask if you would do it, Tim, so I nominate Tim.
Okay, let me back up. Did you have something to say, Ms. Jensen?
I would like to nominate Tim Ferguson if she would be you'd be perfect. They're really a great group. I think they'll really enjoy it, Tim.
Okay, thanks.
So if there's anyone else that has an issue, I think Tim would be great.
Give my consensus, this is my thoughts.
Let's go, Ken.
There we go. Balls dropped, yes.
Thank you. And Chad.
Chad says yes. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Tim. That would be great.
Thank you, perfect. Thank you, Tim. It's a great way to get information to and from the district, so thanks for being that conduit. And the very last piece, as part of my gold standard superintendent comments, is I'd like to share a video on behalf of the High Desert School video production class, and this is in regards to the veterans of foreign wars. So this is a very different topic, one that's near and dear to my heart as a former U.S. Army veteran. I used to periodically go to the VFW and chat with some of the folks there, and so Alex, if you can bring that up and show that video, that'd be great.
Good evening, Superintendent King, Acton Aqua Dulce School Board, and members of our High Desert community. Tonight we would like to share with you a little about how our students are continuing to achieve outside of the classroom. The VFW, or Veterans of Foreign Wars, holds an annual competition called the Patriots Pen, in which students compete locally and nationally. The middle school portion of the competition is to write a 300 to 400 word essay about the topic. This year's was, what is patriotism?
VFW posts around the country accepted essay submissions. For High Desert School, we had 5 students submit essays. Our district is in the boundaries for VFW Courts Hill Post, and the post is in District 5, which encompasses the areas from Phelan to Bishop, from Lucerne Valley to Courts Hill. There are 14 posts in District 5, and there are 17 posts within the state of California. The first place winner from each post moves up to the district level, and that first place moves up to the state and then the national levels.
We want to thank the 5 participants from our school who submitted essays. These students are dedicated to High Desert and really went above and beyond representing our school well with these impressive essays. Thank you again to 8th graders Melia Bruce, Desiree Gonzalez Serrano, and Augustine Cabrera, and to the 6th graders Francis Cabrera and Victoria Seymour. We are so proud of all of you students who submitted their work.
At our local VFW post in Courts Hill, we had 2 of our students place. Congratulations to Victoria Seymour on her tie for second place at the VFW post level. We are happy to have her share her amazing essay with us.
What is patriotism to me? In our front yard, we have a flagpole that flies the United States flag along with the United States Marine Corps flag below it. I love seeing it flow and open when the wind carries it back and forth, so it's tall and lit at night. Merriam-Webster defines patriotism as love or devotion to one's country. One of the greatest ways of showing loyalty is to serve it, and that makes me think of my dad. My dad was a United States Marine. In the Marine Corps, he was an explosive ordnance disposal technician, EOD. During those 8 years, my dad went to war in Iraq 4 times. He doesn't talk about it much, but when he talks about some of his experiences, it's like you're standing there watching it all happen. Some are funny when he tells us about how awesome he was, still is. He was given 2 Navy Achievements medals with V for Valor. He received others, but I know he is proud of these. As an EOD tech, he took apart and blew up hundreds of IEDs, improvised explosive devices, or bombs, saving many lives. He lost close friends, but I know my dad is a Marine like his hair is brown. I feel pride knowing my dad serves our country. Willingly putting himself before others makes my heart swell. He left the Marine Corps and continued his career serving. He is now a police officer and helps people every day. I don't know if I will ever join the military or become an officer, but I do know that I will support them and my country. I will make sure that the flag flying in our front yard is properly cared for, and I will have one flying whenever I am old enough to have my own home. When I'm 18, I will vote because the rights my dad fought for mean something to me. I'm not sure who said it, but I heard someone say, live a life worth their sacrifice, and that is something I will never forget. I will appreciate and think about my freedoms, especially as a young girl. To me, my dad is a symbol of patriotism. Many people might not understand, but all I have to do is look at him and I know.
Next up, we want to congratulate Augustine Cabrera. He placed first at the post level and second at the district level and received a scholarship. Here is his incredible, heartfelt essay.
I would like to start by thanking the veterans of the foreign wars for their service and for encouraging children to write about patriotism. Second, I want to thank all the teachers and staff from the Aadusd district for all of their help I received since I couldn't speak. Thanks to their help, I can be reading this essay to all of you today. And lastly, I want to thank my family for always encouraging me to do my best. Now I'm going to read my essay to you. What patriotism means to me. What does being patriotic mean? Is it important? Can everyone be patriotic? Being patriotic means defending your country, dying for your country, singing the national anthem with your heart and soul, and showing how important your country is to you. In this essay, I will talk about what patriotism means to me. To be a good patriot, you first have to show pride in your country. You can show it through your values, feelings, culture, sentiment, and by knowing the history of your country. Your country's history makes you more aware of the feelings and suffering the people who founded your country had to endure. By showing interest in the past, you are remembering and appreciating the people that fought for your country and their legacy. Another aspect to take into account is how a person contributes to society and their environment. Examples of this are having a good job, good manners, proper behavior, and respecting the rules of society and nature. Having all of this helps you be a productive part of society. Also, when you show respect towards your environment by not polluting the area around you or protecting the flora and fauna of the place, you are also showing you care and understand how valuable are the natural resources of your country. However, as I see it, the best way to express patriotism is to show the immense love you feel for your country by being involved in each event that shapes the current society you live in. By doing this, you are taking part of the building of a better society which shows justice and equality for all, no matter if a person is rich or poor, the color of their skin, their beliefs, age, or gender. A patriot is never selfish and never gives up on their country. A patriot also teaches their children how to be good citizens in society through setting a good example and instilling strong values that, in time, would be passed through future generations. In conclusion, a patriot also has faith in their country and fights for it with all their heart. Overall, a patriot will be an exemplary citizen, will never give up on their country, and will always show respect towards it in every manner they can. This is what patriotism means to me. Thanks for listening.
As we sign off for the evening, we want to once again thank all of the students who submitted essays and congratulate the winners. You set a great example and we are all so proud of you.
This is Chaz and Aleka signing off for the day. Go Hawks!
Okay, so Ms. Jensen, that concludes superintendent comments, but I just want to really thank the students of High Desert for putting that together as the video production class, and also the students who contributed. I just thought it was done in such a meaningful and heartfelt way and to honor our veterans, so just want to give a shout out to them.
Thank you so much. Do we have any submissions this evening, Mr. King?
We do not.
Thank you. So we'll go ahead with board comments, starting with Ken Fallscroft.
It is very rainy out. You can probably hear it on the roof of my workshop here. First off, thank you, Larry, for bringing up what was covered in my questions about the sports presentation. They were also captured in the Acton Aguadose News, so thank you, reporter. I don't like things dying on the vine. I think the important lesson in terms of transportation is when you're coming together as a member of the district team, it's very easy for me to example say, hey, I would build $1 million school and then just dump the $1 million cost in someone else's lap. So I would encourage staff, if you come forward with a solution, make sure the consideration of transportation and other things and logistics are part of that discussion, and it doesn't end up being the teachers as to what this eligibility problem is. So when you bring this to the board and report out to the board, I'm going to be looking to the Teachers Association president or their designee to say, because you know what, when I was in high school, if I wanted to play hockey or pole vault and I was okay at both and I was getting a D, which I always did, the coach would wink at the teacher, and that undermines the teachers. It undermines so many things. It ultimately undermines adults, the kids that have that done and get free rides and don't get the assistance they need. So that's very important to me as well. I want to be very clear. When it comes to the choice of logo, I love the ASB, I love all that, but I want a memorandum from the superintendent that describes the process by which that logo was chosen, who picked it, how it was voted upon, and let's put that in the file so the next time somebody comes along from Boise State and wants to know why they have their logo on the floor, we pull it out. We can put this to bed and move on. There's some housekeeping that's never been done. It needs to be done now, and I'd like to get that out of the way. Now, off to the good stuff. Some of the employees in the district have what are deemed critical employee roles, and they come to work every day. They physically show up in the office every day. They physically clean things every day, and they physically hand out food to people every day. And they choose to do that, and sometimes at their own risk. So I think those people need to be recognized, and I appreciate you. I've spent a lot of focus on law and making sure everything's okay, and I don't spend enough time getting down to the individuals that do the work in this district that involve the education of our children. I apologize to you for that, but I'm down on the end down here, and I don't have to do the stuff that Callie has to do this year. One other group of people that I want to talk about, I think sometimes we forget that teachers at the end of the day or at the beginning of the day or whenever they do it, put information together to be meaningful to individual students or groups of students that have to work together. And there's a lot of logistics that goes into taking individuals and pairing them up right and making sure that there's successful learning outcomes for all the kids in the classroom. Now, since we're not in the classroom and we do have IEPs for the special education students and 504s and things like that, it becomes very difficult to give those students what is agreed upon in their IEPs. And there are staff, again, critical staff that hand out packets. I want you all to remember that somebody and groups of people are going around and putting these packets together to come home with your kids. And some of them are very individualized in terms of compliance with an IEP, where the work that's being done by one child and another child feels that may be way below that. And I see these packets and someone is putting them together, and I don't want those people taken for granted, because there's all kinds of talk about what we don't do for SPED kids and how these national or federal lawsuits are going to happen. But I will tell you guys, applying faith to the SPED kids in this right now, and I appreciate that so very much. And teachers and staff that go to support the end of cracks, I think you're integral to the Brandon district, and I really, really know that when a kid gets a piece of paper from a school he can't go to, or she, with their name on it, and somebody put the effort in to recognize them as an individual, that is what's going to save the day here. So thank you. Mr. Fox, all yours.
Thanks. Just very briefly, thank you for our teachers and our staff and our students for continuing to soldier on through this term. I know it's not easy. I also I agree with Mr. Falsgraf on the possibility of a probation or grace period for sports eligibility. Generally, I have voiced my opinion that I'm not supportive of that. Academics needs to come first. But I'm willing to consider it if that's what staff and teachers think is appropriate, given some of what's going on this last year. At least, for this term. But I like Mr. Falsgraf. I'm very, very interested in what the teacher's perspective is, because I don't want to undercut teachers, and I actually trust our teachers to fairly grade students' work ethic, as well as their achievement, as well as their how much effort they're putting in. So I think the teacher knows their students best. So I am curious what the teachers think about that, should that come before the board. And then lastly, and probably most importantly, congratulations to the students on those essays. They were beautiful, and that was really, really nice to see, and made the board meeting for me. Thank you, students of High Desert.
Good evening, everyone. Chad Wadsworth here. I want to echo Mr. Falsgraf sentiments and Mr. Fox's about the eligibility for the students. It will be very welcome to see what the teacher's suggestions would be regarding the eligibility for some of the students that might be lagging a little bit in their academics. I also agree that academics should come first before sports. However, in this difficult time with COVID and distance learning and so on and so forth, I think there should be a little bit of leniency for some of the students. If we can somehow figure out that process, it would be great. I want to thank Mr. King for showing the support for the high school and getting the gymnasium decorated a little bit. I think that's going to bring a lot of good morale to the kids when they come back. And to the kids at High Desert with the essays, that was excellent work. The video presentation was great, and I'm very proud of you guys. Lastly, I will say to the teachers out there, I know you guys are tired. I know it's taxing some days with the workload and the frustration with the distance learning and the power going in and out, but you guys are all doing a great job. keep up the good work, stay positive. Our kids need it. The kids are responding well to it, and just want to give you guys a round of applause for your hard work. That's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
I want to take a moment to congratulate the Hawks from High Desert and their efforts with the veterans of foreign wars. As a veteran, that touches close to home. My dad was a veteran of World War II, and when Victoria said that her dad doesn't talk too much about it, well, my dad didn't talk about it for almost 60 years, and we finally got him to step in front of a camera and give us a rendition. We're waiting to get the editing of that. So you just did a great job, both Victoria and Augustine. Good writing, great expression of thought and feelings, and I was very impressed with that, and I thank you as a veteran, and I'm sure that your parents are extremely proud, as we are. Thank you again. With regards to the comments on the athletic eligibility, as a teacher and coach, I know I never let the bar low and never lowered the bar for my athletes. I always expected them to do better than what the minimum was requirement of. But I agree that during this COVID, athletics is probably our principal elective opportunity for our students. It's great for their health, it's great for their condition and their mindset, to get them back out there, to get with their teammates, to get with their coaches, to have another disciplinary conversation with their coaches away from their teacher parents at home. So I'm sure that as a teacher, I know that there's conditions and there's circumstances that warrant it, and I think that we need to look at that. I'll be anxious to see what my former colleagues come up with regards to a short term for this COVID once we get back to normal, but don't want to lower the bar along the long haul, but for the time being, I want to get the kids back out there and get them with their teammates and their coaches and help them, like what Mike said, soldier on during this very challenging time. I think it's in the best interest of their personal health, and that will, because athletics directly connect to the success in academics. They have that helps them get back into class and do a better job. Our staff, there's been a lot of conversation going around about the stress of students and parents and everyone, and there's a lot of stress going on with teachers trying to put together the programs, their Zoom classes, getting their materials, keeping the students engaged, and I know it's a challenging thing, and compliments to you for your hard work. And congratulations, and keep up the hard work for the students. We expect you to do well. We know you'll do well. Keep working hard. And parents, thank you for your patience, because we're like you. We want our students back in the classroom. We know that's the best place for them to get an education, is to be in that one-on-one where teachers can read facial expressions and understanding and have all that communication. So we'll get back to it as soon as possible. Everybody, please stay safe and be well.
Thank you. First of all, thank you so much, our High Desert students. I was thinking of a couple of things. The first thing I thought of is, wow, we finally have some news that's exciting and positive. So it's rare that we see some great news. I just think they should be future anchors someday. They did a fantastic job. But to our students that wrote the essays, to Victoria and to Austin, that just made my evening tonight. And I'm glad we had some time, because I was actually feeling myself getting choked up. So I was glad that we had some time in between to get it together. But great job, students. I'm sure Victoria and Austin maybe are not here tonight. So if they're teachers or any personnel, could please let those students know that we really appreciated them, or if we could have an email or something to contact them, I would greatly appreciate it. So thank you to them. I did attend a couple of meetings this last week. I did go to the Aadusd Meeting, where we had Dennis Myers, who's the California Schools Board Association president. He did some speaking, and basically just playing back. Mike, I know you talked a lot about this, talking about the funding and the getting some of that full and fair funding back. So there was some talk about that. There's a lot going on with budget and things like that we need more clarification on. Also, I did attend the Antelope Valley School Boards Association. I believe that was on Tuesday night, and we did have Senator Scott Wilk was there speaking, and we did, and we had Superintendent from Lakewood, Dr. Duardo was there, and just talking about some of the COVID updates. And so I know people get frustrated because we all want our kids back in school. That's what we all want. And it's really hard when we're part of LA County, and we're this little town, and that's one of the things we love about our community. But we have to still follow those numbers. So I know there's frustration, wondering, when we're going to get back. But basically, the message has been, with the 2 meetings I attended this week, is we still don't know. So that gets really, that's really hard to plan and things. But as my fellow board members were talking, there's so much behind the scenes. And so I just want to thank everyone, because often we don't talk about everything that happens at school. It's great to talk about academics and everything that's going on with our students, and of course that's important. We are centered on student learning. However, there's a lot of social emotional. We talked about, there was some comments made about anxiety and things of like that. Kids want to be with their friends. Then you have the, how are English learners doing, and how are our special education students doing?
I think I was still muted. Sorry. No, we're good. We're good to move on. Thanks, Ms. Jensen.
Okay, so we have with us now, we have our consent agenda. So is there anything that anybody, first of all, in our board members want to pull? If not, I'm going to ask Mr. Oh, go ahead.
Callie, let's run through the food chain. I don't have an issue, but I'd like to see the personnel report verbalized. I don't think we need to pull it off and separate it, but given the budget, given what's going on, I need that verbalized as to what positions are open, what positions are proposed to be filled. We have the superintendent do that.
Sure. Okay, before we do that, any other board members?
I have no comment.
Mr. Wadsworth, do you have anything?
I have no comments, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jorgensen. Okay, so Mr. King, is there anything you want to discuss?
Sure. In response to Mr. Fallsgraff's request, first position, special education teacher, special day class mild to moderate at High Desert. Closing date open until filled. Assistant superintendent of business services. The site is at the
Minutes for the, that's part of the consent agenda. Sorry, let me go through this. Hold on. We're going to go with 9. We don't have anything for 9. 10, business services. We need an update on the budget, governor's 2021-22 budget. Mr. King?
Yeah, thank you so much. So this is an informational item and procedural. There's no action necessary from the board. In just a moment, I'll turn it over to Pearl Azuka. Both Pearl and I attended the governor's proposal. It's called the January proposal by the governor, and it's followed up in May by the May revise. So at this point, it's sort of a snapshot, slice in time of the budget from a state view, a state perspective, and what's being proposed. And Pearl Azuka will go over the highlights of what we gleaned from that webinar. So I will turn it over to you, Pearl.
So Alex, can you put up the PowerPoint, please? So as we're waiting for the presentation, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent King, cabinet members and staff, and members of the Acton-Okmulgee community. So the governor's budget, just as to talk about the cycle of things, he initially rolls out his budget in January, and then between now and May, he does a May revise depending on the tax receipts that have come in, and he'll present a May revise. And at that time, school districts have pretty much developed their budgets, and then make adjustments. And then finally, the governor will sign the budget by June 30th. And if we need to make a change, then we do that 45-day revision. So I don't see the PowerPoint. Alex? Are you able to pull it up? So the theme of the governor's budget overall, and I'm going to just give a high-level perspective at this point, and then as we look to develop our budget, then we'll take into account these high-level points. There is some good news, but we want to be cautious because remember last year at the same time we got fairly good news, and then the pandemic hit, and then we got really bad news by May revise. So we are cautious at this point. So the overall theme for the governor's budget is trying to do recovery. And he's looking at trying to protect small businesses, trying to create job creation packages, and trying to address housing, healthcare, and of course, education for Californians. We're still recovering from the fires of last year. And so his main goals are for establishing the the state's financial reserve and try to get back onto fiscal footing. And then of course, he's looking to try to get back students in person classrooms. And also, near and dear to his heart is in the area of early education. So there are a lot of initiatives in his budget for that. Next slide. So the budget highlights that we're going to be looking to put into our budget as we move forward. First and foremost was that we were pleased to see that we're going to be looking at a 3.4% COLA for next year. And what he did was he backfilled what we didn't get funded for this year for the 2021 year and then added to that. There are advisors out there now, including LACO, I heard on a conversation today, that are asking that we be very conservative and perhaps look at some other more conservative numbers such as school services, and the county's going to give us a more conservative projection. This was the Department of Finance's number. Well, we'll let you, as the second interim comes about, we'll give you the exact numbers that we'll be using. Unfortunately, that some of the other programs didn't get this 3.84 COLA, and some like special ed and mandated costs, there was only a 1.5% increase. In his budget proposal, he is presenting special incentive for special education, mental health, and we've had a lot of conversation tonight about the effects of COVID and on mental health for children and students, and so there is some programs in place for that. Wanting to look at school climate and how that, in terms of just trying to get the demographics and understanding who has been most affected by this COVID-19 pandemic. And then a number of different kinds of educator professional development. We're going to see a buy down of PERS and STIRS, which are the retirement programs. STIRS is for teachers and PERS is for everyone else. The employer costs have continually gone up, and we have had to bear that cost. And those rates have gone up higher than the cost of living increases that we've received. So that's good news that those continue to go down. And there is a significant amount of dollars for going back to school in person through COVID. And the Safe Schools for All is one of the first initiatives that's trying to get students back in person. And $4.6 billion for learning loss mitigation, such as for summer school and interventions. Next slide. So again, a COLA in 1 year makes a difference. You can see here on the chart, 2021 there was a statutory COLA of 2.3, but we got funded 0. So next year, 21-22, we see this compounding of dollars. So right now, we aren't receiving any concentration grants, but we are very close. We're at 54% right now. So if we're able to increase our free and reduced application count to that 55, we'll be able to get all three levels of those dollars. So we're going to keep an eye on that. But this is our major funding, and so this is something we focus on. About 70% of a school district's funds come from this alone, and it's based on the number of students that we see daily. Next slide, please. And as I mentioned, special ed, there's going to be an increase to the base of about $625, 1.5% increase, which gives our base at $634 in addition to those dollars you saw on the other page. This by no means covers the cost to educate a special education student. There's always work in place to get that funded, what it really does cost to educate those students. But for now, we're happy that we got a COLA, which we would have gotten a 3.84, but this is what it is for special ed. And then the next slide talks about this incentive program that Governor Newsom is proposing. It's similar to what was enacted this year, and that is to present a program, evidence-based program for preschoolers to support their readiness as they enter into our system. And if we decide to go this route, there is funding about 5,900 resident preschooler with disabilities. Next slide, please. So I'm not going to go into much detail, but these are the three initiatives that he's looking at. He's very interested in community schools, where schools will provide a number of kinds of services, community services, and the like. So there's funding for that. It's primarily in high poverty areas. $450 million for mental health programs. Again, this is to address the mental health needs of students that's been exacerbated by COVID-19. So we've talked about that, and this is a way that maybe we can start looking to implement some programs. And then lastly, $10 million on school climate surveys, and this is to conduct those surveys that I mentioned to assess the effects of COVID-19 for our communities. Next slide, please. And then he is very interested in pushing forward educational professional development and professional learning. He's looking at social emotional training, early math are sort of the focus. On teacher effectiveness, his focus is on accelerated learning, re-engaging, restorative practices, and implicit bias training. And then he realizes that we need to continue the pipeline of teachers, as we're seeing that we're beginning to see a shortage. So he has got a number of programs that are trying to get those teachers into the pipeline. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, there are two retirement programs that affect us as employers, and one is the California Public Employers Retirement System. This is CalPERS is for non-certificated, and the number you see there, those numbers represent every $1 how much goes to the retirement. So every salary dollar, the district has to contribute that amount. And I can remember 7 or 8 years ago when that number was like 13%. And you can see that in years out, it's going to go up to 27, 28. So there was, for next year, it went down a little bit. It was going to be 25%, but through good investments, they were able to buy down some of that. So the rate is only 23. I shouldn't say only, it's 23 projected. On the next slide is the teachers' retirement program. And you can see there in July of 2013, the rate for teachers, every dollar for a teacher would be 8.25%, $8 for every 100. And you can see next year, July 1, it's now 16%. And that actually is down from what they originally projected it was going to be 18. So all this helps us in the long run because since most of 80 to 90% of our budget is people, everywhere that there's some savings or some reductions, that helps us in the long run. Okay, next slide. And this is, we'll probably spend more, but these are all the different types of funding that's going to be available this next year for learning loss mitigation, LLM, that's for COVID-19. Response from the federal government as well as state matching dollars. Each one of these programs has a specific deadline, regulations, and rules that we need to follow, so we need to track that, and there's deadlines that we do need to follow in order to make sure dollars. So, next slide. So that's a real quick overview of the budget. As we bring the second interim to you, we'll actually turn this whole proposal into numbers and how that affects our district, and looking at how the future is for our multi-year projections. And I want to just thank you for having the opportunity to discuss this with you tonight.
Thank you so much. So we'll go around for board comments, starting with Mr. Paulsgraf. Questions or comments?
Mrs. Zuka, I very much appreciate your professional and nonpartisan summary of the governor's things, especially during these COVID Zoom meetings. People tend to get off on their rants about what they think about certain politicians and the like, and I very much appreciate a professional presentation. What I would say is I think there's been environmental, or not environmental, but economic impacts on the average household that we would have never thought may have happened before. I personally haven't missed a day of work, but I know a lot of people that have. And I know that a couple of years ago, Ms. Buchner in the district office went around and encouraged people to participate if they needed to in the free and reduced lunch program. And I know that that's a touchy thing, and personal dignity, the dignity of children, students, and families comes into play there. And I hope that we will talk to people, because there's a lot of people out there that are in need of those services now that may not have needed them before. And economic recovery means putting people back to work and at least giving them enough money that they can get food and things. And if we can help them there, it helps the district, and it helps family budget. So please exhaust all efforts in repeating her fine effort of a couple years ago. Thank you. Floor is yours, Mike.
Thank you, Ms. Azuka, for the presentation. I know that we were worried that perhaps the COVID impacts on the economy might end up in putting us in a place of less revenue. But California gets a lot of its tax revenue, I think, from capital gains on stocks, and the stock market is doing great, even if people are unemployed. And I don't say that in a tongue-in-cheek fashion at all. But as a result, we're seeing maybe even a little bit of upside. But in the greater scheme of things, I don't want to sound like a downer, but in the greater scheme of things, we all heard at the last budget we have a structural deficit. This will help a little bit maybe, but it's not going to cure our $2 million structural deficit that we made a down payment on just with our last budget, and the $726,000 of reduction. So we still got some tough times ahead of us. I'm glad that it appears as if the COVID impacts on this year's budget won't make that harder, but we still have hard work ahead of us. That's all.
And thank you for that presentation. I appreciate it. I don't have much more to add from what Mike Fox and Ken had to say. I guess we'll see in time where this all leads, but thank you again.
Thanks, Pearl, for putting the numbers in something in outline form that we can understand. I'll just be looking forward to the details because that's where it's at to the details, so we figure out where we're at. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the presentation, and also thanks for kind of explaining that this money has to go for special things like the learning loss mitigation funding, that it has to be used for that. So even though we have some monies, it has to go to special places, and it's tagged for special things. So thank you for explaining that. Okay, anything else? I'll turn it back over to Mr. King if he has anything, or if not, we will go to future agenda items.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the presentation as well. I think that was extremely helpful and done very, very well to capture what was a pretty lengthy webinar. So those were really the highlights. And for future agenda items, I'm going to make a suggestion. I know Yolanda's on the line, of course. I'm going to suggest, Ms. President, that we take career development and the audit report, and as items sit on here for a long time, it'd be better if we put these into our board calendar, and we'll update that and then share it with the board. So we will place these on the calendar where staff thinks they will fit, best and be timely. And then that way you'll see them fall off of here but go on to that calendar, and they won't be lost. And then just to make sure that I've understood some of the things that we discussed earlier in the board meeting, staff will come back with a informational item from Vasquez High School in regards to the gym beautification project. Look forward to sharing that on February 11th. We'll have some pictures to share with you, renditions and so on. And then also we're going to develop, per board request, a memo to document, memorialize the process for Mr. Fallsgraff's request. Want to make sure that I heard through board comments, sounded like there was consensus on that. I also heard that there was consensus with regard to a desire to see a look at the athletic probation board policy that could be introduced. We'll bring that back as a staff recommendation. And I also heard that you'd like administrative staff to work closely with teachers to ensure that we're hearing their concerns or desires in terms of such a program, short-term versus long-term. We'll have that discussion with teachers as well, and we'll bring that back to you. Does that capture what you heard, Madam President?
So far, yes, but I want to take it around one more time. Mr. Fallsgraff, is there anything you would like to add?
No, that captured it. Thank you, Larry.
No problem.
Mr. Fox?
It's fine, thank you.
Mr. Wadsworth?
On what you said, Larry, thank you.
Mr. Joyce?
Fine, thank you.
Thank you. No, I think that's everything. Just, I don't know that the eligibility thing could be ready by February 11th. You might need a little bit more time if you're going to be asking for some input from teachers.
Correct.
So just might not be in the next board agenda.
That's right.
But, yeah. Okay, so we're going to move on to the calendar. Our next two board meetings are February 11th and February 25th, and then we also discussed this evening about possibly having a Saturday workshop or a special meeting on March 6th at 8:30. That's kind of a tentative appointment. Correct?
That's correct. If we can do it in person, then we'll make that happen. If it can't be in person due to the current guidelines at that time, then we'll push it out to April.
Okay, thank you. So tonight we do have some unfinished business from our first closed session, so we're going to go back into closed session pending majority vote of the board. Do I have a motion and a second?
And moved.
Chad Wadsworth seconds.
Okay, call for the vote. Mr. Fallsgraff, are you there?
Fallsgraff, aye.
Fox, aye.
Chad Wadsworth, aye.
Tim Jorgensen, aye.
Ellie Jensen, aye, so we're going back into closed session and the time is 8:57. Thank you.
Great, we'll see you in there.
We'll look for that.
It would appear that they are going back into closed session for unfinished business, and then that concludes the meeting for tonight.